This is Zena Krogadal, your American Dream Makers host. I am so glad you are here this afternoon. We have a very exciting guest joining us today. But first, if you are watching live, please share this. We'd really appreciate it. And if you jump on live, please let us know that you're here. We'd love to hear from you. And if you have any questions, don't be shy and type it into the comments, and we will have Derrick answer you. So let me play my intro video, and then we will get to our special guest. Hi, I'm back. So exciting. We have such a special guest today. My friend Derrick Green is joining us today, and he is a speaker, an author, a fantastic chef, and an entrepreneur. And I cannot wait to get into all of this with you. So here he is. Hi, Derrick.
How's it going?
Good. How are you doing today?
I'm blessed, doing amazing.
That's awesome. So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to jump on this show, The American Dream Makers, and you are making the American dream come true for lots of people. So can you tell us about yourself, please?
Absolutely. So, my name is Derrick Green. I'm originally from Fort Pierce, Florida. Father of four, husband to one, awesome Leron Pellet. And as you said, an author, entrepreneur, this whole journey that I've been on, learning to actually become a chef, transitioning from a cook to becoming a chef and leading people, and now expanding this thing out to be a franchisor. Yeah, 21-year Army veteran. I don't know where to start or what you want me to say.
Anything and everything. Well, first of all, thank you so much for your service. That is fantastic. I mean, sacrificing those years in service and then coming out, and now look at you. You're continuing to serve our country in, I know, a slightly different way, but nonetheless, you are serving our country. So really appreciate that so much. So I like that you said you have a family of four and married to one. I'm glad you specified that. That's great. um, Hello, Stephanie. It's great to see you.
Stephanie.
Miss you already, girl. So, Derrick, so what we want to know, tell us about the restaurant that you have right now called Waffles and Whatnot.
So, Waffles and Whatnot is a dining experience that I created in Anchorage, Alaska. I actually started it on a picnic table in 2016 on a sidewalk next to Balto down on 4th Avenue. And, I'm super excited because as of November of last year, I turned it into an SEC registered franchise. And now we're opening our second location outside of Alaska in Orlando, specifically Sanford, Florida. Looking at a grand opening date of June 1st. And I'm amazingly excited for that.
That that's really awesome. So tell us about what inspired you to start Waffles and Whatnot.
Oh man, I'm probably gonna get sued by is it Disney that made Shrek? Because it's like this. There's layers. It's like an onion. There's layers. And in the morning, I'm making waffles. Um, so the inspiration for this is, like I said, it comes in multiple layers. It was me facing my fear as at the time I was a soldier in the army, and one of my greatest fears was always opening a business. So I decided to run at my fear and open a business. So there's one layer. A second layer is that I had taken a year off to do community service. That was me transitioning from the active National Guard into the traditional National Guard. And I did a year of community service where I highlighted different things like veteran suicide, sexual assault awareness, domestic violence, victim advocacy, substance abuse, human trafficking, and all different types of things. But I paid for everything out of pocket. So another layer to this business was at the end of it, I wanted a way to pay myself back. And we decided to go open up this coffee shack at this very popular fishing place where there's like 15 to 16,000 fishermen lining the banks of this Kenai River, sometimes on a daily basis when the salmon run is going. And my friend that I had come over, because when I started doing this, what I did is I literally went to the store, Zena, and I bought every waffle and pancake mix on the shelf, every single one of them. And I bought every box of frozen waffles that they had in Fred Meyer. You probably would know that as Kroger. I cooked all those waffles and I bought ingredients to stand in my kitchen and keep working on recipes until I could beat every single one of them, and then beat my own waffle and then beat my own waffle again until it was just like, oh my God, I think this is it. And my friend that I was feeding waffles to said, why don't you come stand in front of my store? And she has a gift shop downtown. So shout out to Sarah Green and Sarah's Gift Cash. Um, Another layer is that my father has been in prison since I was about 5 years old. And in 2013, he'd had the opportunity to get out and get free. But have to keep in mind that when he went in, text messaging and Zooms and FaceTime didn't exist. So he comes out into this technology laden world and didn't know how to cope. And one of the skills that he'd had is he's always worked in restaurants when he was free. And then in prisons, he's always run the kitchens. So I created a system, a franchise system that I created that if he were to ever get out again, I would be able to put him into something that he's familiar with while we wrap the resources around him to help him um, get back on his feet. Yeah, I could keep going. I'll shut up and let you ask some more questions.
No, you know what? That I think that's great. Wayne, hi Wayne. Thanks for being here. Wayne's excited for the new location. Uh,
Good evening, Wayne.
and Stephanie's really excited too. Um, we're all excited. So, if any of you that are watching have any of you eaten at Waffles and Whatnot, the location in Anchorage, correct? Is where
Yes,
you're at. So, if you
yes.
have, type one in the chat if you've eaten at Waffles and Whatnot in Anchorage, Alaska, if you've experienced it.
You know, Wayne, who is just here, uh, Balaam, what's up, brother? So
Hello. You got some
this
fans here.
well, they're a part of this journey. They're a huge, huge part of this journey because Haley, who is Balaam's wife and Wayne's daughter, had digestional diabetes when she was pregnant, and she would come to Waffles and Whatnot. So another layer to this thing is the fact that I created something that initially was for, in a thought process of I had a wife who had cancer, I had a mom who had cancer and HIV, later AIDS. I had a grandmother who had all different types of food-related illnesses, and I wanted a place where the entire family could sit down again and be able to eat and share a meal. And it wasn't about slapping somebody's wrist. It broke my heart to hear my cousins or my aunts or my uncles telling my grandmother, like, Mama, you can't eat that, when we went out to a Cracker Barrel. Um, and that was a thing because when I was a younger kid, after church, my grandmother or my mother would always take us out to places like Cracker Barrel or Waffle House or Golden Corral and these places, right? And now to see her in her later years not be able to eat and enjoy meals with the rest of us and to be chastised like a child, that really did something inside of me. Um, and then you have my wife, like I said, that had cancer. She was suffering through breast cancer. She fought that for 6 years. And on her third day after chemo, it was always her worst day. And those were days where I would watch her essentially dry heaving and having no energy. And I don't know if you've ever been a caregiver to somebody like that, but it's an incredibly heartbreaking thing to watch somebody suffering like that and realizing that there's very limited things that you can do. So I created these pancakes that were BRAT compliant, bananas, rice, apples, and toast, so that there was something that had some taste to it. Because if it wasn't for that, she would be eating like the little crackers that babies eat when they're teething.
Mm, yeah.
That's what she would be eating, but it didn't have enough sustenance. So I created these pancakes that I later turned into waffles years later after my wife had passed. Um, But as I said before, there's just layers to this thing. There's also this layer going back to my dad, just really quick, where 1 in 5, I mean, sorry, 1 in 3 black men in this country will see the inside of a jail cell in their lifetime.
Mm.
1 in 15 are currently incarcerated, and it sucks for that many men to be incarcerated because it destroys um, the families, it destroys family units. And one of the things that I looked at and saw was that entrepreneurial ventures is a way out of that. It's a way to escape the minimum wage cycle of jobs where even after that man gets out of prison, he still has to work 2 or 3 jobs to try and just make ends meet. So he's still not able to be a dad or be a father. Um, so here's a way that I created a franchise system that when somebody gets out of that Department of Corrections bubble funnel, I could then take the skill sets that they have and wrap this franchise system around them. And a part of the reason that I turned it into a franchise system was because it wasn't good enough just to do cooking, like teaching them culinary skills. Not everybody wants to do culinary skills. Some people are amazing at finance. Some people are great at product distribution. Some people are great at logistics. You may know them as a drug trafficker, right? But in the military, when you're transitioning from the military, they go through this exercise where they take your military experience and they put it into civilian terms, right? So I started making fun of that, like trying to get creative with it. I'm like, okay, so you have somebody that went to jail for trafficking drugs. Sounds like a logistician for me, right? That's what they are. Okay, this person went to jail for money laundering or something like that, and it's like, oh, financial minded person. I have this thing where I try not to, or I try to get people to acknowledge what they've done in the past, but look at what they do now and become the person that they actually are. And
Wow.
those things, like those 3 things, it's what you've done, what you do, and who you are, right? And when those things aren't in alignment, I try desperately not to just throw people away. I try to be the least judgmental person that I know because I'm the first to stand up and say that I've made absolutely horrible mistakes and learned a lot of amazing lessons from them in life. And had people made those judgments on me and held to those judgments, and if I had held myself to those judgments and never allowed myself to process forgiveness, then I wouldn't be the person in front of you right now.
Mm.
That's at this conference in Texas, changing lives. It's just the way life works.
That's awesome. So, hi, Elijah. Oh, they delicious. Yes, I agree. Stephanie says, oh, she had the privilege of having your waffles and whatnot earlier this month. It was divine for sure. Hey, Mitch, how's it
Mitch,
going, buddy? Good to see you on here. We got a few people here I want to say hello to. Hi, Wayne. So you're there every time you go to Anchorage? That's I probably would be too, because I think Derrick must put something in those waffles and whatnot because it is a little addicting. Ever since I've had it, I've been craving it. So you've done
it's just
there's
love.
something in it. Oh, my husband. Look at that. He
Oh,
experienced your yummy waffles and yeah. And
that's
the
actually so. Go ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, when it comes to Chris, and this is what I was talking about with Haley earlier, is that that thing of accommodating all allergies and food restrictions, or nearly all allergies and food restrictions, is really big for me because you have people like your husband that may go to a restaurant and he needs something that's gluten free and he has a dairy allergy, and so they may chop up some iceberg lettuce for him, sprinkle some carrots, pardon me, some shredded carrots on that thing, and spritz of lemon, right? And it's like it's such a crappy food experience, and it ruins the moment because you have these very intimate times, limited times that you get to spend with people, whether it's your girlfriends with lunch, or this small window of time that you have to spend with your husband, and you don't want the food to be a distraction from that time that you actually get to have with those people that you care about. So this is something that's incredibly important for me is, I mean, the food will be a distraction because everybody's taking pictures of it, but it allows you to get back to conversing with each other, you know?
Yeah. Well, I can say that we both really appreciate, especially Chris, that you took the time to make him something separate for his dietary needs. And you put a lot of love into it. He could taste it. He could feel the love that you gave him. And it still tasted fantastic. And I say still, because you and I know that sometimes when you go healthy, it's
Yeah.
not always the best tasting stuff, but yours, oh my gosh, was out of the park. So we thank you profusely, because the poor guy, it's been a new thing for him, so it's been hard because he's tasted, the fruits of dangerous fruits, and it tastes pretty good, and then now having to switch to something a little different sometimes can be challenging. But we absolutely, with so much gratitude, that you have that passion to be able to take care of people, because dietary allergies are definitely are on the rise. More and more people are having more issues, and so thank you again. Cheryl, thank you so much for being here. She had your mac and cheese in Sanford at the Sanford store. Oh, yeah, your mac and cheese were pretty good.
Thank you.
Hi, Ken. The best waffles
Thanks.
on the planet. Yes, they are. And by the way, thank you, Ken, for making this interview happen. We almost had a little bit of a glitch, little technical difficulties. That's why we were a little late. But Ken came in and saved the day. So thank you so much, Ken.
Thank you, brother.
And yes, amen, Stephanie. Mitch, yes, blessings to all. Thank you so much. Jim Rice, thanks for being here. He's hopeful to try the Sanford location in June. Yes, yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yes. June 1st. Listen, everybody come out, support. It's gonna be absolutely amazing. I have how do you say Patricia's last name? Is it Gagic?
Gagic,
Gagic?
I think. Gagic, I think.
But Patricia, I don't know if she told you. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say, but I'm gonna say it anyway. She'll slap me later. But Patricia was just voted in the top 10 contemporary artists on the planet.
Wow.
Like that is freaking awesome.
That's
So
awesome.
to be in the presence of an artist that's that well renowned, that has artwork in the Vatican and won gold at the Louvre is like that's amazing. And then she's like, "Hey, I want to come and be a part of this thing. I want to come paint waffles and whatnot." And I'm just like,
Wow.
what? What?
That's
Hell yeah, let's go.
that's so cool. Oh,
So having people like that and you and like everybody that's supporting this journey, people have been following this thing for years. And it's a beautiful thing that I appreciate that I've had people following this journey, watching the ebbs and flows. Because I don't know if you knew, but in 2019, I had a very public failure where I ended up losing my restaurant and my house within 24 hours of each other. But it was one of those things of it was an opportunity to either stay down there and wallow in my own self pity or to get back up on my feet. And this conference that I'm at right now is called Edge, Veteran Edge. And part of the conversation that we're talking in here today is about veterans and how we can essentially get our teeth kicked in and we stand back up like, all right, life, you got me that time. Let's go again, buddy. And that's the way I felt in 2019 because I mean everything just went to crap really freaking quickly. But I decided to do what Les Brown says. He has this advice where he says when he falls down, he wants to fall on his back because if he can look up, he can get up. And this was the thing like, okay, let me fall down. I did lay there for a little bit. I can't lie to you guys. I laid there, but it allowed me to analyze and say, okay, I'm not done. Where did I mess up? And after analyzing where I messed up, this is where the whole franchise system came from. Sitting alone, my wife was in Israel with the kids because she needed a break. My daughter was in Germany as an exchange student. I just retired from the military as well. So I'm sitting alone and analyzing all of these mistakes that I made. And I had actually taken the last bit of money that I had. So when you go through a foreclosure, if there's a surplus, when they resell your house, they give you this surplus money. I took that surplus money and I went and bought a bankruptcy lawyer and I filled out the paperwork and everything. And still to this day, I still have that bankruptcy packet because I just could not bring myself to do it. I was like, I saw a way out. I started playing. I had already been playing it, but I started playing again the cash flow game from Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I saw a way out. and I couldn't file that bankruptcy thing. My pride wouldn't let me do it. And here we are years later, that thing of grit, like Tammy Duckworth talks about, and perseverance and tenacity that allowed me to get back on my feet.
That's a very inspirational story. That you were knocked to the ground, teeth out and all, and that you had the perseverance to come back up fighting. And that is something that I've noticed in many veterans. Those, I know there's many that struggle with some PTSD and trauma coming from the military, but once you can get through that, I noticed there's a resiliency, and you made a whole career out of the military, so you were in that culture for quite some time. But there's a resiliency that you just don't quit. I mean, there's so many inspirational stories. I think veterans are amazing people because they are taught that for basic training. If you quit, you're out of there. Well,
Right.
and there's certain missions, if you quit, you're dead, and the whole team's dead. It's not just about you. It's about everything else. And so how cool. And that is what the American dream is made of. And you are definitely an American dream maker because you survived, you overcame, and you're thriving. And these are amazing comeback stories for sure. I'd like to circle back a little bit though, when you were talking about your reasons of getting into Waffles and whatnot, and your vision for that. You had touched on something that I think is very profound. You talked about how your father had been in jail, and it really, I mean, obviously that affected you very personally. Um, but yet you still extended him such a loving hand, and you wanted to include him in your dreams. How did you, and I heard you say, because you're a person that you don't want to judge somebody from their past, you want to see them for who they are and who they're becoming, which I think is beautiful. But how can you help the rest of us who may not be able to see that? I mean, what were the steps? What was going on in your mind? How do you arrive to being able to truly love somebody who may or may not have been able to have been there for you in your time of need each time that you need him?
That is a great question. And the answer begins with this. It may not be, I'm just, listen, I'm authentic. I'm just going to be
Yeah.
who I am. I've made so many mistakes in my life. And even though I was a suicide intervention instructor, I almost took my life because I had no value left. I didn't feel worthy of love. I didn't feel like I deserved to actually be here. And all of the mistakes that I had made in the past as a young man, as a young father, as a young husband, not excusing any of it. Like I did some things that made me question who I was. And it was this realization as I came to the realization via the help of a therapist of who I actually was, like who am I? And so many people, especially my veterans out there and entrepreneurs and just people in general, so many people go through life never asking that question, who am I? Who am I? Who did God put me here to be? Whether you believe in God, the creator, the universe, the hand that guides all, or the fish in the sea, who cares? It's who am I? Once I found the answer to that question of who I believed that I was, I realized that all those things that I had done was just that. Those were things that I had done. But those weren't things that were in alignment with who I was or who I am as a person, as a spirit, as a soul, as an entity put here to raise the vibration of the planet. There's a quote that says, never judge a man on his worst day or by his worst actions. Every single person that is watching this live cast and every single person that will see this video has made mistakes. They have had their worst day, and every one of those people would love for somebody to be able to forgive their mistakes because that was their worst day. That was their worst time. That was a thing that they did that is completely out of alignment with who they are. And it doesn't matter if you literally took somebody's life. It doesn't matter if it was infidelity. It doesn't matter if it was a crime, embezzlement, or something like this. It was at your worst time. Often was like this was this person's worst time. So if you judge that person by their worst time, you'll literally go around thinking that everybody's inherently bad or everybody's inherently evil, and they're not. As I began talking with people, whether it was through sexual assault victim advocacy, domestic violence victim advocacy, suicide intervention, resiliency training, or just being a soldier in the military, a military policeman for 21 years, I began hearing and seeing people in a different way. And then there were certain books that I was reading, and one of them was very powerful. It was called You Can Heal Yourself. I forget the name of the author, but You Can Heal Yourself. And she had a statement in there, and she just, basically an exercise. She had this thing where she said, whoever hurt you, right? Let's use my dad as an example. The fact that he's been in and out of prison since I was 5 years old and wasn't there to support me as a father. I didn't have that person to teach me how to shave or to teach me how to fight or to teach me how to talk with women and stuff like this. And I felt, I wrote a book about this, by the way, that I published on the 20th of January. Um, but in that book, I was talking about how if I look at my dad as the man, it's very hard to forgive him because I'm looking and saying, man, I'm a father of four. And yes, things have been tough, but I still gritted it out. I got out there and I did what I needed to do to take care of my family because I manned up. And it's easy to look at my dad and go, he's a coward because he ran back to the prison and blah, blah, blah. If I take a step back, though, and use what that author said, and to look at him as a child and to go, okay, well, who was my dad and what was influencing him when he was 3 to 5 years old that would cause him to become the man that did this thing that hurt me so bad? And I realized things like, my dad's mom, my grandmother, who was my soul, grew up in the Carolinas. And my grandmother's grandmother was a slave. Think about that and let that sink in. I love my grandmother, and her grandmother was a slave, the first free generation of slaves. So, what mentality did my great great grandmother have that she passed down to my great great grandmother, that passed down to my great, and you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
my dad, um, my grandmother had to leave my dad in the Carolinas and come back down or come down to Florida, and she left him when he was about 2 years old. She went back and got him when he was about 11, but that's a pretty huge gap for a kid to be in an environment where the mentality down there was literally like, I'm gonna beat you so the white man doesn't have to beat you. Even I heard those words growing up as people beat the snot out of me. When you look at it from that perspective, you look at any human being from that perspective. I don't care who it is that hurt you, Zena. Like literally, if you look at them not as the adult, but look at them as a kid and ask yourself questions like, when this person was 3 to 5 years old, what did they endure that would cause them to become the human being that did this thing to me now? Then you realize it's very freaking hard to stay upset with somebody when you look at them as a child. Because when you look at him as a child, like I can imagine my 2 year old dad being abandoned by his mom on this farm with this lady who was mean enough to tie my grandmother naked to a tree for like
Mm.
24 hours. So what did my dad endure? What type of physical abuse and mental abuse did my dad endure? Where did he have any um, example of love? Where did he learn how to be a dad or to be a father? Did he learn anything more than how to be a sperm donor?
Mm.
You know? And when you
Mhm.
start to ask questions like that and you think about it from the perspective of that kid, then you realize that you just want to go back and hug that kid and remove him from that environment. The adult you, the adult me, wants to
Mm.
go back to grab that 2 year old that is abandoned by his mom and take care of him, adopt him, and raise him, right?
Right.
This is forgiveness. This is how you begin to forgive people and begin to release. As Dr. Wayne Dyer says, it's never the snake bite that kills you, it's the poison that courses through your veins. And we all have so much poison coursing through our veins because we haven't learned the techniques of how to release those poisons. So, sorry, that was a very long answer to your question.
It was a great answer to the question because that was very deep and very heartfelt, and you obviously have a lot of love for your father, and it obviously hits you very deeply, because it's affected your community that you've grown up in, the culture that you've grown up in, and so you've seen the effects of all that. And how cool is it that you have led by example to break the cycle? You've begun to break that cycle because, like you said, how long has this been occurring? And each time the hurt got deeper and deeper. And so people sometimes get stuck and don't know how to respond. But yet granted, like you said, we all make mistakes and we all are learning, but you have learned and grown, and you were able to extend that forgiveness. And so I really applaud you, my friend, that you are setting a wonderful example for your children and for the rest of us. Very inspiring. So I'm glad you went deep. So don't don't apologize for that.
I want to say that just looping back around to that those times where I wanted to take my life, because it happened twice, where I wanted to end my life, what I was helped to see is that I had to also look at myself as a child. What was the upbringing that Derrick went through, that Derrick endured, that would cause him to do those things that he did? Um, where were the examples of fidelity when I grew up? There were none. Where were the examples of loving relationships? There weren't any. Where were the examples of great fathers, not just daddies and baby daddies? I didn't have that. I had violence, gang violence, poverty, lack of education, growing up in the Florida education system that when my grandmother was murdered, they made me and my brothers go in and clean up the murder scene.
Mm.
That's how I grew up. I grew up hearing all types of racial things being said towards me. And I'm not one of those persons that just throws out, "Oh, that's racist. Oh, you're a bigot." I'm not that guy. There are truly racist people out there in the world, and there are true bigots out there in the world. And growing up in Florida, I experienced a lot of that. So, what are the things that I went through as a kid? And then you have, again, going back to the book that I wrote, and the series of books that I'm writing called Pocket Aces, the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study, where if any of you guys want to actually learn more about this, like truly, just Google ACEs, ACES, Adverse Childhood Experiences Study, and you'll see how many of these childhood experiences that I'm telling you that I went through, which of the 15 that they list, I've been through 14 of them. So you look at the fact that these ACEs, kids that grew up around physical abuse, physical neglect, emotional abuse, emotional neglect, and all types of other things, witnessing substance abuse, incarcerated members, witnessing violence against your mother, unsafe communities. As kids grow up in that environment, it quite literally is correlated with um, high morbidity rates or comorbidities, diabetes, heart disease, cancers, dementia, Alzheimer's, liver diseases, substance abuse, promiscuity, um, uh, obesity. All these different things that we've been taught our entire lives are related to just food, right? It's because you're not eating enough, eating right, and you're not exercising enough, and that's just straight BS. We aren't educated properly to see the entire picture of this human being. And that's a part of this challenge of being Derrick Green now and trying to put this message out into the world, right? There's scientific data that backs up the fact that my life expectancy, because of how many different adverse childhood experiences I've gone through, as compared to someone who hasn't gone through any childhood experiences, adverse childhood experiences, my life expectancy at a minimum is reduced fourfold and up to 12-fold, right? I've been through so many of them that I'm literally not even on the chart for things that life expectancy triggers. So when you learn to look at the entire person and what did that person go through that shaped them into the person that they are now, then you learn to actually begin to forgive yourself, which has to happen in order for you to love yourself. And once you learn to love yourself and appreciate who you are and who God created you to be, you find that value for your life. You understand why you exist. You begin to search and understand why you exist on this planet. And once I promise you this, once you know what you're here for, there's nothing that can deter you. I'll tell you that I refuse to live in society's boxes in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Take your labels and go shove them somewhere because I understand who I am now. And because I understand who I am, what I've done is irrelevant. It's an experience, it's a life lesson that I've learned from because I'm now doing and being who I am.
Awesome. Awesome. Hi there. So I don't know how to say the first name. Tinus? They ate at last week at and Blee our taste buds. We'll definitely be back for more. Thank you, sir, for taking the moment and speaking with us. Definitely going to come back for more. Awesome. With all the lives you are
Awesome.
touching with your food, you are definitely reaching many, many people, and they are tasting the goodness that you put in there. And now they're getting to know the background of why there's so much passion and love when you're putting it in there. I was speaking with someone the other day about how it seems like you can taste when there's cooks and then there's cooks. And,
Yes.
right? And so you can taste when somebody truly has a passion for that love, and of cooking and really wanting to serve people with it. There's a whole difference between someone who does it out of duty and someone who loves doing it. And you, my
Right.
friend, you cook. You are
Thank
a
you.
master.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So, yeah, that those answers that you've given, it's so inspirational, and I think a lot of people needed to hear that. And I'm so grateful that you are willing to be vulnerable and share that, because not everybody is able to do that, especially on a public forum. Because now that we're on the internet, the whole world has just heard it basically. And so I'm really grateful that you did that, because the lives that you are going to impact and touch, uh, you know may be countless. And so thank you.
You're very welcome. Here's the irony, and I want anybody that sees this to understand this or process this. The irony is that you can pass a homeless person on the street that asks you for $1, and you're like, get away from me. Blah, 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 blah.
Mhm.
But if somebody put a naked baby on the street and that baby was crying, every person would stop to help that baby. Every single person would stop to give aid and comfort to that child, right? We run away from vulnerability because as adults, we've been socialized not to be vulnerable. We've been hurt. We're never going to let somebody do that again, blah, 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 right? Or we've made a mistake and we don't want the world to know. Hey, my house was foreclosed and I lost my restaurant. I don't want the world to know that. But the opposite is actually what needs to happen. Just like the baby, that naked baby that needs help, or that little kid at a fair, right? Where there's literally thousands of people and there's just this kid holding a balloon crying because they don't know where their parents are. The whole fair will shut down to find that parent for that kid, right? Because that kid was vulnerable enough to be truthful in their emotion in that moment. I need help. I'm lost. That's what this is. And for all my veterans out there that have been taught to carry themselves with such pride, hold your head up, hold your shoulders up, hold your chin up, as my grandma would say. But at the same time, you have to understand that you have to be vulnerable and you have to be willing to continually make yourself vulnerable, because it's only when you're vulnerable that people can actually help you. They can actually figure out what are the ways that I can help this person, right? So you go to the hospital and you've been in a car accident and you don't let the medical staff touch you. No, don't touch me. Blah, blah, blah. I'm a man up, right? Okay, cool. Here's a juice box. Have a nice day. But if you allowed them to actually be, if you allowed yourself to be vulnerable and they start poking and prodding and you realize that you have broken bones and you're bleeding internally and all these things, the amazing thing about this that I found in life is that whatever your deepest fear is and whatever your biggest problem is, it's somebody else's wet dream. So going back to that the thing of the car accident, you're afraid to let people understand that you're hurt, but there's a doctor sitting in the ER just waiting, like, please let this be, this type traffic accident. because they want to put you back together and stitch you back together. That's their dream. So it's just this irony.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Susie Moore, thank you for being here. She loves that you don't just talk the talk. He walks the walk and genuinely cares about people. See you next week in Sanford. Oh, very cool.
Awesome.
Wayne, very inspirational. We can't let our past destroy our present or our future. You are a role model many can learn from. Yes,
Oh,
I agree. Very wholeheartedly. So so these are very exciting times. I mean, you've got a new chapter in life unfolding. You said you wrote a book in January. So where can we get your book? And what's it
so
called?
so I've published 3 books on Amazon, which you can search for Derrick Green, Derrick Green, just like the color. The first book that I published was about my 6-year journey as a cancer caregiver, a
Okay.
very raw story, and that one is called Till Death Did Us Part. The second book that I wrote was called Stop Talking and Start Walking, and this last book that I wrote is called Pocket Aces.
Okay.
And yes, Pocket Aces. You can also find it if you go to derricklgreen.com.
Okay, I'm going to
D
write that.
E yes,
Derrick L. Green.
derricklgreen.com.
I'm glad you said that because when I typed in Derrick Green, like you're a singer, you're a NFL player. I was like,
Pop
wow,
up everywhere. I pop up everywhere.
yeah, that's great.
So yes, derricklgreen.com.
Is that it?
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yes. So that's where you can find more info on Mr. Derrick. And yes, please go on Amazon and buy his books. I don't know about you, but they seem very, I mean, just giving us a little tidbit about you here in this short amount of time, I can't imagine what the book's going to contain. So, so, uh, so with all of the experiences that you've had, and you've given us so many nuggets of wisdom, how about I ask you one final thing?
Okay.
What has been the biggest highlight of your life so far? I say so far because your life isn't over yet, so there might be others, but so far.
Man, wow. The biggest highlight of my life has to be discovering who I actually am and deciding to embrace it. Can I share a dream with you?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
I had this dream where I was with my previous wife, and this is after she had already passed away. And we were in a shuk or a market somewhere in Africa, and uh, we were walking down a corridor, and there were a bunch of African soldiers at the end of the corridor, and she was like, "I don't want to go down there," and so we turned around to come back, and she had disappeared, and I was naked.
Mm.
I'm in my dream, and I have on not a single stitch of clothing, and I'm at a bar suddenly, right? And it's like an ice cream bar, weird, I don't know, weird freaking thing. But there's this girl sitting there, and this girl is like probably in her 20s, and I recognize her eventually as my daughter. I'm standing naked and I'm trying to cover up, and I'm all ashamed. And she says to me in this dream something to the effect of, um, "Stop standing in shame, right? You're at your most vulnerable state right now. And if people can't stand seeing you at your most vulnerable, they don't deserve to be in your life."
Mm.
So you fast forward that dream, which happened in 2013. You fast forward now to, where I met you, which is at this retreat where we also got to meet Tim's story, right? And where I shared about being vulnerable with Tim's story. And he used that metaphor of the green room and who's in your green room, who has your back no matter what, right before you get to step on stage and perform. And it's one of those things of, if people can't see you at your most vulnerable state, they don't deserve to be in your life. They don't deserve to be in your inner circle. And once you understand who you are, and you choose to embrace it, and you be vulnerable with who you are and things that you've done, you essentially free yourself from being blackmailed by your past. And that's something that a lot of people haven't learned to do or aren't brave enough to do. And they will die being blackmailed by their past.
Wow.
Happy moments.
Wow. That's mind blowing that you had that dream. 2013, you say?
2013, yes.
And then confirmation upon confirmation, and then just kind of almost that full circle with Tim Story saying what he says, and you're like,
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Tim's that guy. Tim's that guy. He blew my mind. You know that. You were there.
yes,
This is yeah.
yeah, absolutely. If anybody gets a chance to hear Tim's story or be around Tim's story, you guys need to take advantage because he is he is authentic too. He's not even just
Right.
he doesn't just tell you what you want to hear. He truly cares and is so authentic. And yeah, I for sure. And just a little bit too. I mean, yes, we met at the Turn It Up Retreat Mastermind in Orlando, Florida, and that was kind of a surprise. I guess meeting in that. I think I know for myself, I wasn't really sure why I was there. I mean, I knew I needed
Yeah.
to go, and I think you kind of felt that way a little bit too. And yet, those 4 days that we spent together, and there was about 35 of us or something like that. So it
Yes.
was a nice setting, and it was an incredible experience. You want to tell us a little bit about what your thoughts were with that?
Listen, so this turned it up retreat. First, I wasn't nervous at first to go to the retreat because I had been invited there, basically facilitated by Israel Duran, and he's like, "You need to come to this retreat." Um, and Craig had emailed me this agenda, so I did read the agenda, so I thought I was good to go. And I was already traveling, supposed to be traveling down to Miami for Grant Cardone's stages, right? And so I left stages and drove from Miami to Kissimmee. And when I get there, Israel comes outside and he's like, "You checked out the website, right?" And I'm like, "What website?" And he's like, "Bro, you didn't check out the website?" And I'm like, "No, what website?" So once I saw the website and I saw who was in the house, I was like, and I'm standing there and I start freaking out. And for anybody that knows me, they know that I see clarity in chaos and I'm not the guy that freaks out. Right. But I'm freaking out outside this house. And I'm like, man, what am I supposed to say to these people? And he's like, hello? Just be you. And he goes, man, you just left Grant Cardone's stages where you placed second runner up for this, I mean, second for this golden ticket opportunity to be in America's next great speaker. What do you mean? What are you going to say to them? Sometimes it takes people to put a mirror in your face and maybe slap you a little bit for you to understand, like, oh, that's right, I got this. And it's like sometimes you have to borrow somebody else's faith in you until you find yours. But going into that house, I'll tell you that you guys were instrumental in me having some amazing breakthroughs for this year. I thought 2022 was the best year of my life, personally and professionally. That week that I spent with you guys blew that out of the water. It was an amazing opportunity to be in a intimate setting with people that have all had struggles, and some are still struggling. And you're honest and open about it. It's like being in a nursery. You have it's not just one baby crying. You have all of these babies crying, and you have all of these people that will come in and do everything that they can to help calm those babies and figure out what's happening. And in that sense, we're all babies. We're all those of us that chose to be vulnerable with it, and to truly embrace the opportunity that was there. I can speak for myself that this was life changing. Some of the conversations that I had publicly and some of the ones that I had privately were life changing. For somebody to sit there and tell me that they had to start over at age this or age that. And then for me to go, man, I still have 10 years before I get there, right? What can I accomplish over the next 10 years? And what can I do to help other people? It's like this restaurant down in Sanford that I'm opening. You know, you have this crew and the staff down there. You have people that have had a dream of owning their own restaurant for 20 years, 10, 20 years, some of them, right? People that want to be lawyers, people that want to be in organizational leadership and have degrees in that. People that they have dreams. And I'm listening to their dreams and realizing that, you know what, your dream doesn't scare me. It scares you. It doesn't scare me. That's what this retreat was for me. The dreams that I have as I voice these things, having people like Gloria Mayfield Banks or Tim Story or uh, Nick or anybody, having Ken stand up, Craig stand up, or private conversations with people, and basically say like, your dream doesn't scare me, it scares you.
Hmm.
And it's essentially because you don't believe in yourself. You don't believe in yourself at a level that you should in order to truly go after and embrace these dreams. And it reminded me of something that Sheryl Sandberg said to me years ago when I went to Facebook, when she told me, Derek, you have $100 million business in your head. Problem is you just don't believe you do.
Hmm.
How many people, Zena, are out there? How many people will listen to this that have a dream that society has beat that dream to sleep, right? Society has made them make those dreams go away or make them think that those dreams aren't achievable. And those dreams are no different than that child, than that toddler. That's it. Your dreams are your children. You give birth to them. You're the only person that thinks of your dream.
Hmm.
You're it. You give birth to them. And so when you ridicule your children, or you laugh at your children, or you dismiss your children, they run away. Your dreams are just like your physical children, your biological children. So when you ridicule them, laugh at them, don't believe in them, or don't believe in yourself enough, they'll run away. Your dreams will run away. But it's just like being a parent, right? Where your first child, you're like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm going to mess this thing up. Good God, how did I, right? How did I be given this responsibility? And then at some point you realize, you know what? I got this. And I've wrapped this kid in so much freaking love. And I'm going to continue wrapping this kid in love. And I'll make mistakes. Absolutely. I'll make mistakes. I'll hurt their feelings. Sometimes I'll snap. Sometimes I'll say something harsh. Sometimes I'll feed them the wrong thing. I'll make mistakes. But I'm going to wrap this kid in so much love that those mistakes will be forgiven. And that kid will look at me and I'll be their absolute hero. In fact, they're going to find a spouse that mimics me, right?
Wow. Thank you for that. That's um, you kind of leave me a little speechless. You know, you say all that. I just want to absorb everything you've said. There's a lot um, that you have really uncovered and shared with us, and it's amazing. You're an amazing person, Derek.
So are you?
Well, thank you. And would you agree that part of the making the dream come true is like what Tim Story said? It's who you surround yourself with. You walk with the wise, you become wise. You walk with the foolish, you're going to become foolish. And so, and what Gloria said, there's going to be people out there who want to erase you. You need to get rid of them,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And as you start to, I guess, prune or whittle out those those people or those voices or whatever it is that tells you you can't or you're crazy or that's never going to happen, how's a guy like you going to ever achieve that? Once you start whittling that out, and now you're surrounding yourself with people who are encouraging you, who are lifting you up when you can't really see it yourself. I mean, that's why these amazing masterminds and surrounding yourself with the right people really propel quite an energy, would you say?
Absolutely. And it truly embodies for me what a mastermind is. You're trying to master your mind. And in mastering your mind, you realize the truth in this statement that has been repeated so many times, that everything you need is inside of you. And the most common example that's given is the oak tree that's contained inside of an acorn, right? Every oak tree began as an acorn. And we allow society to distract us from the fact that we were born with everything we need inside of us to achieve our dreams. And we are the only person that can do it because we're the only one that can see it. Two people driving in the same exact car get in a traffic accident. If you pull them side by side or pull them apart and have them write a paragraph about what happened, you're going to get two different stories because it's from two different perspectives, even though they were both sitting in the same car. This is why it is absolutely critical that you go after your dream. And oftentimes, people will support people that are going after their dream because they didn't go after theirs. And so they can live vicariously through you as you go after your dream. Whether they'll admit it or not, that's kind of what happens. And that's perfectly fine too. Like,
Yeah.
accept people as they are. This is what this whole love me unconditionally thing means, right?
That yes, yes. Who on here that's watching, who on here belongs to a mastermind? Can you type two if you belong to a mastermind? I'm just curious if anyone else on here belongs to a mastermind. And then if you have any questions for Derrick, we've got just a couple more minutes here, but if you got any last questions for Derrick, please pop it into the chat. And see, and Mitch, thank you so much for your support. This has been a really fun hour with you, Derrick. I'm so
Has it been an hour?
yeah, just about. We're just about at an hour. Can you believe
Oh
that?
wow. Wow.
Yeah, and I know you got lots to do. So hey Nick. Oh, thank you so much for
Hey,
joining in, Nick.
Wagyu.
I know Nick's got some exciting things to do too, and he was on yesterday. So if anybody wants to go back to listen to that, listen, you guys, if you found this live stream inspiring and you think other people need to hear it, please share this. Share this with your people in your social media. Get this message out. I mean, Derrick is a real gem here and has so much to offer. So please share away. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Do you have any last things you'd like to share in this last 60 seconds?
Yes. Start your day with gratitude. Live your day in love and keep going. Don't quit. You will fail. You will fall. You will fail. Get back up. That's all you have to do, literally, is get back up. The only commonality I've found in studying, and I've been doing this for years, studying wealthy and successful people, the only thing they all have in common is they didn't give up.
Awesome. Well, thank you once again, Derrick, for taking time out of your busy schedule. I mean, you just flew into Dallas for your conference and you just hopped on to this and you definitely, I think, helped us all to be inspired and want to do better, to love better, to be better, to do better, to eat better.
Yes, stop eating mediocre food. Come to Waffles and whatnot.
That's right. It is life-changing. It truly is. Hi, Cheryl. Thank you so much for being here. Yes, thank you so much. So we'll just say goodbye for now, but I'd love to have you back on another time, Derrick. Enjoy your conference. We will chat soon, my friend. So, and don't take off just quite yet. I'll be right back in, okay? So you guys, thank you so much for being here today. It means a lot. Again, if you haven't joined the American Dream Makers Facebook group, please join. And I'm on Facebook. I am on YouTube and also LinkedIn and Instagram. So goodbye.